This morning we are going to do a tool called efficient meetings, a tool to help you get your meetings to be efficient. First, ask yourself, and if you're with a group of people, ask the whole group 2 questions. Do you have a lot of meetings, and are your meetings efficient? This tool is intended to help you not minimize the number of meetings you have, but make the meetings very productive and efficient. First, I'm going to share with you 3 ways to make meetings efficient right off the bat. And these are techniques that various people have used. Some of them you might recognize, maybe you use them yourself. The first of the 3 techniques is stand-up meetings. Take away the chairs. Stand-up meetings where there are no chairs, possibly you stand in the middle of a cross corridor where everybody is just standing around having a quick meeting for 15 minutes. Those meetings are usually very efficient. People get very antsy standing much longer than 15 minutes. So, by virtue of their desire to leave, meetings get efficient. You might be practicing those kinds of stand-up meetings. Second way of getting meeting efficient is an interesting one. Think about it. It's actually quite easy to implement. In a conference room like meeting where you're sitting down, there's a table, everybody's got a chair, and the meeting's going on, create a practice where an automatic buzzer goes off every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, an automatic buzzer goes off, reminding everybody, and the protocol is when the buzzer goes off, everybody stands up, nobody says anything, everybody stands up, observes a 15-second silence, introspectively examine themselves. They ask, what the heck are we talking about? How did we get to this subject? What was the subject of the conversation in the meeting first place? What should we be talking about? They think about this for 15 seconds. They sit down. The meeting continues. Nobody has to say anything. The buzzer, stand up, 15-second silence, introspective thought, meeting continues, makes meetings efficient. A third method to make meetings efficient, have a little jar at the middle of the table. And outside the jar, put down monopoly money. Monopoly money that is reasonably indicative of the dollars being spent in this meeting. So, if you have 10 people, and on the average, if it's $100 an hour, it's $1,000 an hour. Find out what it is for every 5 minutes. So, the meeting moderator keeps throwing into the jar the amount of money being spent every 5 minutes. And anybody in the meeting can take out of the jar money that they consider is the value of an idea created at the meeting. So, when somebody comes up with a great idea that's implementable, that will have value for the company, they say, that's a fantastic idea. I think that's worth $5,000. They take $5,000 out. The purpose here is everybody is constantly cognizant, is conscious, becomes intentional that money is being spent at this meeting. And everybody is constantly trying to come up with an idea that has value, that others would acknowledge as value, and actually recognize it by taking that money out. Those are 3, call it gimmicks, ways of making meetings efficient. But I'm going to give you another way to make meetings efficient in a more systematic way. I hope all of you, when you call formal meetings, I suspect you have an agenda. The leader publishes the agenda, associates items, the person who is responsible, the amount of time that they are allowed, and any pre-work that's required. Those are all common things. The trouble is, in meetings, the amount of time allocated to an individual often seems neglected, often seems ignored. So, how can you make the agenda item owner responsible for the time needed? Now, on occasions, the meeting conversation is going so well that you might want to let the topic move on. But on occasions, the conversation is off on a tangent, totally unrelated to the topic, and you don't know how to stop it. Not only that, you often have people who wish to give input. Have you noticed that? There are people who like to talk. Whatever the topic, they will go on for a while. Even though nobody is interested in their comments, they are not asking for their input. So, to take care of all of this, I am going to suggest a methodology called category of meetings. So, in the meeting you have an agenda. Categorize each agenda items into, I am going to offer you 4 categories. Now, your categories don't have to be the same as my categories. The concept of categories is more important than the specific categories I am going to offer you. The categories I have used, I will offer that to you, but you can go ahead and choose your own categories. The beauty is, when you have a category, you create a protocol for that category. So, for example, an input category, say this agenda item is for input purposes. Or a report category, this agenda item is for reporting purposes. So, let me tell you what a report category might look like. So, the category of the agenda says, so and so is going to speak and they are going to report. So, this person is now given a certain amount of time, they report. The conversation is one way, from the speaker to the audience. The audience is not expected to provide any input. The audience is not expected to speak or ask questions other than for clarification of what the speaker said. The ideas and the contributions of the audience is neither desired nor requested, nor will they be accepted. The purpose here is for the speaker to provide a report. For example, I am going to provide a report on the quality analysis that we are doing. So, I am going to give you the quality analysis, I will give you charts, I will give you graphs, I will give you a report. You can ask me, what does that mean? But don't you cannot ask questions like, have you tried that? No, that is not the purpose of this conversation. You see, that way I, the speaker, am in control of how I wish to use my time. So, I then can be held accountable for holding that agenda item to the time that I was allocated, because nobody is going to interrupt me on that. I manage the time. The second category might be input, where I am the speaker, I desire input. Whereas, in the report category, I provide the communication is from me to you, and in the report category, I simply am giving you information. Your job is to go disseminate that information later on. In contrast, in the input category, the communication is from you to me. Again, one-way communication. I might set up the question. For example, where should we have a picnic this year? I am in charge of the picnic for this year. I am interested in your ideas on where we might hold the picnic. Now, you provide input. I set up the topic, you provide input. My job is not to give you all sorts of reasons why that is a bad place, this is a good place, there is difficulties going to that place. No, that is not the purpose. It is for me to understand your input. I can ask questions, clarifications. Did you mean that park or that park? But I cannot give comments on it. Again, communication goes from you, from the audience to the speaker. The speaker assimilates that information and then uses it for whatever purpose. In both these cases, the report out and the input sought, in both of those two cases, there should be no reason for exceeding the time allocated for that item. The third category that I use is called collaborate. This is where I set up a topic, I am interested in your input, and we are going to discuss it. And I am going to decide which discussion needs to continue, which ones we have heard enough. I manage the time, we have a fixed amount of time, I continue to collaborate, we all speak, and the purpose here is for us to gain an understanding of the subject matter. Now, it might be that the collaboration is going so well that within the time limit we haven't finished all the thoughts, in which case we have to stop at the time limit and simply reschedule continued collaborative conversation. Fourth item might be decide, which is like collaborate with an expectation that you come to a conclusion, make a decision. Here, the speaker makes it very clear, the moderator, whoever is in charge, makes it very clear who is the decision maker. The decision maker is expected to make a decision by the end of that time. Now, on occasions, the decision maker might say at the end of the time, we are not quite done with the collaboration, so we need to reschedule, but you have to stop at the end of that time, either with a decision or indicating that you have to regroup to make the decision. In all four cases, report, input, collaborate, decide, the time constraint is imposed on the speaker, and the speaker is supposed to be held accountable. That keeps meetings efficient, because when you plan the meeting, you usually are very good about providing just the right amount of time. It's when the meeting is going on that people lose track of time. Making meetings efficient makes the entire organization more productive. But more than productivity, it keeps the organization on track, on goal. Think about how many meetings you have. Think about how efficient your meetings are. Can they be more efficient? Try some of these ideas. Make your meetings efficient.